Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Update. Today, we're going to look at one of the most important things that we do in the school system, which is our budget process. But first, we're going to take a trip out to East Coweta High. We'll be back. Today, we're going to take a look at the budgeting process. Oftentimes, I'm reminded that school for 23,000 students and another 3,000 staff members is quite a complex endeavor. So each year, one of the most complex things that we do, one of the hardest things we do, is to develop a yearly budget. There are tons of departments, tons of staff members that are involved in that process. But before we take a look at that budgeting process, I want to go out to the school and give you a glimpse into what an average day is like in one of our high schools. So we're going to take a trip to East Coweta High so that we can show all of the different facets of school, and then we'll come back and bring it all together to show you how our staff budgets to ensure that our money is where it should be, which is where the magic happens each day in our classrooms. So take a trip with me. We'll be back.
Well, this is my 8th year.
Yeah.
So,
Lots changed up.
yeah, it hasn't changed. You still got great kids. I mean, when I was kids always getting the stats break, so that had changed.
You got a big job though. I mean, you think about it, what are we up to? 3,200 give or take?
Right there. That's,
So you talk about feeding them, getting them here, getting them in class, making sure everybody's doing right, supervise them, and then get them home. Pretty big job.
it is, but the culture is now to where I feel at ease. I feel like the staff feels at ease. And we do have a great staff, got great kids, guys. This environment is just continued from youth. I took over. It's gone. It keeps on going, man. It's something that we live every day.
Yeah, that's a big key. You've done a great job, you and your staff, culture. My daughter's here. She tells me all about it. You tell everybody you love them all the time and all that fun stuff. But it's a big old place. So you got 267 staff, 3,200 kids. It's a big operation, a lot going on every day. How do you make it run so seamlessly?
Well, you first of all, you set the culture, and you really, if you're going to talk, you got to walk the walk. And we have got, it's not, I don't like to use the term buy-in, but our staff genuinely love these kids.
Yeah.
And we've started that some time ago in making sure that our staff is on board with what I've tried to set. I'm steering the ship, and it's to the best of my ability. But setting that culture and understanding that we're here for kids, that's been the biggest thing to help run, because what I do. We live in seconds. Any second I can get a call that we just need to take off and go check it out. But we have been very fortunate here because it's great staff, great parents. I mean, great kids.
And I remember when I was here, we used to talk about trying to make a big school feel small. And I think you guys have perfected that. Try to make a big school feel small for kids. Try to make it feel small for parents when you can. Make sure everybody has a place to fit in. But to do that, there's some things that you got to do day to day to make it feel small. It's things as simple as how they walk to class. It's things as simple as how you're communicating with them and with each other. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this.
There is, and when you come into the first year, it's setting those traffic patterns, setting those times when you release buildings at different times. Getting kids understanding where to go, because a kid coming into this school for the first time, and not just kids, adults, and they're like deer in headlights. But you give them the 2 or 3 days, and they've got it down pat. They know where they're going. So it becomes, for me, and I think for a lot of us that's been here a long time, it doesn't feel that deep.
Yeah.
Because you live it day to day. But what you do is you see during class changes that I would say perfected. I don't know if you could ever say perfected, but I'd say we've got traffic patterns where it's balanced. It's good and it works.
Yeah, it's a big key to how you move people and how you do those things. You can look down the hall here now and orderly as it can be.
Well, at the end of the day, here's what I tell parents when they ask about it. I say, just like any other house in the county, goes on possibly, kid's gonna come in, they're gonna go to 4 classes. And they're gonna sit in 4 different classes, just as they would in any other high school in Blossberry. But the transition piece sometimes is worrisome, but after it's time.
Operating school just doesn't happen in a classroom. It involves a variety of areas such as safety, security, and transportation. Take a look at the way that some of those areas impact our daily operation.
I don't know that people realize the scope, the size of that operation. And I always tell people when 3:30 hits in the afternoon, this place looks like an anthill. You got cars going everywhere. It is organized, but this is and again, I go back to the scope of this thing. It's just a huge operation.
Well, as soon as 3:30 hits, you've got parents lined up. Parents start lining up at 2:30.
Right.
Pick their kids up, and they use the catch-all app. And so you've got a ton of parents picking up. Of course, you've got 700 parking spaces that the kids drive.
Yeah.
And then of course it does bus routes, but it runs very smoothly. And again, it takes a minute to get in here and get everybody understands what pattern they're going to take.
Yeah.
But then that's good.
And I've noticed you made some adjustments over the years. Back when I was here, of course, we had our 2 SROs that would direct traffic in the afternoon. But now all 4 gates are covered, I believe, and you have somebody up at the stop sign up there.
Yes.
At the 3-way on
That's right.
on 16.
Yeah, we're covered pretty daggone good.
Yeah.
And then we've got some projects coming up as well, as you know.
Yeah.
That's going to help us on this front gate. And hopefully this summer we'll be able to get that done. And but having that extra presence, move these cars out and get that directional down, it helps us get out of that mud. And in 15 minutes, it's clear.
Yeah, and those road and intersection and entrance improvements over the years, we've evolved as the school has evolved, and those do make a difference in flow of traffic. So it's a good deal. Yeah, good deal. So safety and security wise, you got 2 school resource officers, and then I know we have all the time you want deputies and whatnot floating through here. Talk a little bit about safety and security and how you kind of view that.
Well, one thing that our SOs, not so much a routine. What they do changes pretty much daily, where they are. But they are out and about in the mornings. The kids get here, they're out in the parking lots watching. They are walking the building regularly. One of the biggest things that we work with our staff to make sure that all exterior doors are locked. Classrooms, make that announcement every morning. I started doing that just to reinforce that, to make sure, with a campus like this, being almost a small college campus, we've got kids coming and going all day. We've got, your dual enrollment kids, your work-based learning kids, your CEC kids. So we make sure, number one, you always say beat them to the spot first. With APs, everybody has a plan where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be, during transitions. The other thing is that I ask all staff members during transitions to be out in the hallways, making sure that they can, with 7 APs, we can't cover this campus 100%, so it takes everyone have done their part for safety and security. And I preach every morning, if you see something, say something. That has been huge for us because of the number of emails that I've gotten from students who say, hey, I'm going to go check this out. It's helped us a lot in that aspect.
It goes back to that culture.
It does.
100% back to
trust.
Yeah, and trust. And everybody pulling in the same direction, working in the right direction. That number 267 staff, it takes all 267 performing their assigned duty and being where they're supposed to be to make it flow that way.
Yeah, and it flows great. Yeah. It really does. And when it doesn't, it's just like the tornado or the wind that we had over there.
Yeah.
We had to make some quick decisions.
Yeah.
And then we came in the next day and we debriefed on what do we need? What do we have to give? there were several items we figured out, hey, we need some more flashlights. We needed some, some megaphone, so there's things that you just have to come back because you're not going to get it right every single time.
And constantly looking to improve. That is leadership in every single area. You're constantly looking to improve. And you made a really important point here just a couple of seconds ago. That I think it's important for folks to understand. You mentioned CEC, dual enrollment, work-based learning. Any given block, you've got 200 to 300 kids that aren't on this campus. They're off doing those things.
That's right, at any given time. And then we have some kids that are kids but never report kids.
Yeah. So your number on paper, 32 whatever.
Yeah.
But any given block, it's lower.
Exactly.
I always tell this story. When I came here in 06, I started as an assistant principal here in 06. I think we had 17 trailers, 17 learning cottages on this campus at that time. We did, fast forward, we did the renovation back in 2012. We added 23 instructional units, and we haven't had a trailer on this campus since. I think that's important for people to note that, yes, the number on paper is 3,200, give or take. Every block, that number is decreased by virtual students, all those other students we talk about, and you have students absent every day. And this place functions really well with everybody in permanent classrooms. That's a pretty big deal, So you're not busting at the seams, so to speak.
Oh, no. It doesn't feel like that at all. It never has to be.
Making a big school feel small.
That's right.
Yeah. And it takes all of those things, physical improvement, physical structures, supervision, culture, all of those things to make a big school feel small and work in a small way for kids.
A successful school day also involves areas such as food service, facilities, and maintenance. Now I want you to see how some of those components of our operation affect what goes on inside our
You
classroom.
been doing good?
Yes, doing good.
I see you still rocking and rolling every day, feeding what, 1,200 kids at least a day? Talk to me and Mr. Allen about all that goes into that, because I don't think people realize, I know I didn't before I got in school nutrition, I don't think people realize how hard this job is, the type of work that you do. Talk a little bit about this.
To start with, you have to make sure you order enough groceries. That's the main thing. And just getting it prepared, the staff, you have to have enough staff. You have to have enough staff. And just getting it prepared and making sure the temperatures are right. You have to take temperatures and get it ready on time and make sure, every kid gets fed. Even if they're last in line, they should be able to eat what the first kid ate.
Well, and one thing that I notice every day and what people don't realize, when that bell hits, you guys are on, we've got kids lined up, you get them served in, you get them served out, they eat. And of course, y'all do a great job doing that. Now, you've been with the system for how long now?
26 years.
26 years. I remember back in 1990, I guess you were here in 97. So that's when I first met you I was a teacher of special ed, but y'all have always done a great, tremendous job. And the one thing about this, there are kids that, of course, Evan said it good too, if they're hungry, they can't learn. But this may be their only meal of the day, and it's important. It's a very important process for our school. You do a great job, Sandy.
We're now joined by lead custodian for East Coweta High School, Angela Stacy. Mr. Allen, I know you'll agree with this. I've always told people, I've known her for 16 years. I've always told people, if you really want to know who runs the place, Angela Stacy. Angela, talk to these folks about how many staff you have, what all goes into keeping this place up. This is a huge place. You have a tremendous responsibility.
We have 13 custodians here, and our custodians work from inside out. We have a grounds, and then we have floor tech also, and then each one of them on each hall. Our custodians keep up the restrooms. Those are very, very busy, and keeping our halls clean, because we want to take pride in our school and make sure everything's clean for our kids, and we don't want the kids to have a dirty school, and we just try our best. It's tough some days, but we do it.
You said something real important. And I know it's always been your philosophy.
Yeah.
We try to take care of this school for our kids
Yeah,
because
for our
I've
kids.
heard you say it before.
Yeah.
Kid can't learn in a dirty classroom
No, they
or in a
can't.
dirty school.
No, it's the same thing at your home. You want your home to be nice. This is our home here, I guess. And we just want our kids, to learn, that's why we always on them, like, yeah, take your trays up, because that's a learning experience from them from later on in life. If they have to pick up their things and we have to keep the school clean. We try our best. It's a big school.
Yep.
Big kids,
A lot of kids.
so we're blessed.
That's the thing, though, that I appreciate so much about you.
It's a great
and
county. It's a great school.
Yep.
We got great staff. Our staff is great. That's our teachers, our kids. Our kids are good. We got our ups and downs, don't we, Mr. Allen? But, that's kids.
You make another great point. Our custodial and maintenance staff, Mr. Tommy,
Mr.
everybody,
Yes.
are just as important to the teaching and learning process as the algebra teacher, the science teacher, and you guys see it that way.
We do. We really do. Because, kids, they're kids. It takes, a village for kids, It takes everyone to learn them and teach them how the right way to learn in life. Because
The one thing that I've learned, and I've learned something from you can't outwork
Oh, you can't.
you can't outwork Angela Stacy. Angela's here. I get here probably about between 6:15 every morning. Angela is busting it out. She is on top of things, and you've got to be in this environment. And she's all over this school, and she knows it inside and out. And we're very blessed to have you. And you cannot leave until I go. Okay, so I just want you
I
to
got
know.
7 years. I got 7, so you're here for 7.
We do appreciate you.
I pray the Lord I'm here for 7
I just,
years.
here's the thing about it. You can teach people a work ethic, and you have it. Okay, you and Tommy both. But thank you so much for all you do. The school looks great.
All of this goes into supporting our teachers so that they can provide a safe, rich, and engaging environment for our students. Take a look at this clip that I think will show you when that goal is achieved, exactly what it looks like.
I want to make sure before we go, we stop and make this point. It's 9:12 on a Thursday morning, middle of January. And I know common perception is, with 3,200 kids, that, it's always chaos. This is not staged, by the way, but this is a normal day, middle of first block. Kids are in class, teachers are teaching, kids are learning. People aren't running all over the place. We're having school, and it's orderly.
I love walking down the hallways during these times to visit classes, but when it's so quiet that what you hear each individual teacher in their classroom teaching, just like the classroom we just came out of, advanced chemistry, taking the test, but just to hear what's going on and taking place, and when you do walk down these hallways, this is an amazing thing.
Yeah, it really is. You don't just listen to that.
But this is normal for me. I see it every day, so
That's right.
this is how we operate.
I'm just always reminded, big school, small school, elementary school, middle school, high school. School is school. Right? And if it's done well, this is how it's done. So, thank you for what you do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Here we are in the gym, and every time I come to the gym, I'm reminded of the fact school doesn't end at 3:30 every day, does it?
No, and what you got to realize too is that a school, any school, has a lot going on. East Coweta has. It's like I call it New York City in a way. It's a city that never sleeps. Because we do have activities. We do have so many clubs, organizations, sports. You name it, we have it. And there's always something going on. So at 3:30, it's really just beginning on a lot of things that happen where the kids get immersed into different activities. And that's why it's so important that we tell parents, hey, and kids, get involved in something, because there's plenty to get involved in.
And I go back to, I know we've said it a few times, but you're going to make a big school feel small. You want to have everybody plugged into something. There's something here for everybody. It may not be sports. It may be math club. It may be drama. It may be band. It may be chorus. It may be art club, any number of things. but there's something for everyone here if they choose to get involved and get plugged in. And that just feeds that culture.
Yeah, and you got to remember, right now we're coming into February, March, April being one of the busiest. I mean, every single day on this campus, there is some sort of activity at night going on up until, and I mean, you're talking some of the hardest working people on this campus as far as organizations. It's a band.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, they don't stop.
No.
They really don't. And that's pretty much a year-round thing. But again, it doesn't stop at 3:30. It continues.
And it takes everybody pulling in the same direction to make it go and make it go well. And you guys are doing a great job there.
Well, I promise you, what I truly feel is that our staff members, I believe this with all my heart. The idea is I believe they love kids, and you can see that each and every day on what they do and what they give to really reach, teach, and motivate these kids in this school, and it speaks for itself.
But if leadership doesn't love them, that doesn't filter out to the staff.
True.
So
Yeah.
you gotta give credit where it's due. So that culture, it's been established for a long time here, and you guys are doing a good job.
If you're going to have to work, you want to feel valued, loved, and supported. And if something happens, that's on you. Same thing. Exactly. Let's walk this way. All right.
I hope you enjoyed that trip to East Coweta, and I hope you learned a lot. Now we're going to take what we've learned and we're going to see how it all fits within the budget process with System Comptroller Chris Latimer and Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Mr. Keith Chapman. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed that visit to East Coweta High School, and I hope it shows you just a little bit of the complexity that is involved in just having school on a normal day. There's a lot that goes into that. And along with that, I'm joined now by Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Keith Chapman, and our System Comptroller, Mr. Chris Latimer. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Horton.
Thanks for having us.
First off, I want to say congratulations to you on a clean FY22 audit. Chris, you want to talk about that audit?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the accolades, too. It takes a whole entire school system to create a financial team that we have here in our school system. And all of the work that goes into that financial package is a result of all the hard work from our bookkeepers, HR department, business services, and all of our employees pulling together to make sure that we are good financial stewards of all the taxpayers' funds here in this county. So there's a tremendous amount of workload that goes into creating a quality product, and that we are proud of that.
Yeah, and Mr. Chapman, I mean, $240, give or take, $1 million general fund budget. It's a big operation, and a clean audit, it doesn't happen by accident, does it?
No, sir, it doesn't. But we've had many years since we've had a finding. The last one was related to Hurricane Katrina. And everyone's pulled together, done a really good job, and kept us in good shape.
Good, and I think Mr. Latimer makes a great point. I mean, it is a team effort. It starts at the school level, at the teacher level, quite frankly, and making sure that we're doing the things that we need to do to ensure that internal controls are in place and that we're being responsible with the money that's entrusted to us.
Yes, sir. It takes everyone. It's not just central office. We're just the last spot that it gets to.
Yeah, and we're here around the 1st of February. And you know what that means. What does that mean in your world, Mr. Latimer?
Budget.
budget season. Every year, right after Christmas, we start in on budget season. And it's quite an undertaking in an organization as large as ours.
It is. It is a large job. I think we handle it well, but it takes many people to come together to create this budget to make sure that we can operate for the next fiscal year and meet all the needs of all the students and staff in the school system.
Well, let's walk through that a little bit. It doesn't begin in Coweta County. The budget process begins under the Gold Dome, right?
It does. And, right now there's heavy discussions going on under the Gold Dome that affects us in our school system. So we have to take all of their information, all the new bills, legislation, and take it and learn how to budget for that and react to it appropriately. Yeah. Because we have a responsibility to make sure that we abide by all of their expectations and wishes too.
Yeah, Mr. Chapman, it seems like every day we're having conversations about information that we're getting from the legislative session, and we're having to come up with a lot of projections.
One of the biggest things we're looking at this year, the state's got a proposed change to health insurance there, looking at about 60% increase on what we've paid prior on our employees, and funding that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Interesting is a good word to use. And look, the state works very well with us as far as making sure that schools are adequately funded. But Mr. Latimer, it is a puzzle that we have to put together, and it involves not just the legislature. It involves many different system departments. It involves the budgeting process, involves schools all the way to the staff level. Talk a little bit about that.
It does. It is quite the undertaking, like I said before. It starts really with a visit with HR. We're going to start, and it starts well into the year. We're going to do projection. What of our schools are going to look like in the next year? What does our student population, our growth model suggest? So using that, we're going to project how many teachers do we need at each location, how many support staff, clerical. From there, we'll get together a list by school, by location of our current workforce and growth positions as well. So once we figure out that, we'll go ahead and budget for every single person in the school system. And even those vacant positions, even those growth positions, we'll just put in a placeholder so that we know that we can budget for them and potential benefits that go along. Because salaries makes up a huge part of our budget, approximately like 92% of our budget. So that's salaries and benefits. So we got to make sure that we're adequately covered there. But even once we have those models put together for human resources, we'll extend it out to the school too. We'll school by school, we'll reach out to our principals and their SBLTs and pull together their needs for their school for the year. They'll pull together a plan of what they want to, the goals they want to meet for that year, for the next year, and we'll put together a budget and so that we can make sure that we can buy those resources they need to meet those goals for the year.
And Mr. Chapman, Chris makes a great point. Budgeting is not a one-way street. There's a lot of back and forth that goes on between your staff, central office staff, and the school based on projected needs for the coming year. And it starts with projected student enrollment.
Right. Enrollment drives most everything in the system, from personnel needed, supplies needed, facilities needed. Enrollment drives. It's an ongoing thing. We do periodic updates to our projections. Have been pretty good with those so far.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. Enrollment drives the number of cafeteria workers in a school. Enrollment drives the number of bus drivers, bus monitors. Enrollment drives, and student enrollment drives the number of teachers, the number of administrators. It's not done by accident. There's actually a method to the budget madness, isn't there, Mr. Latimer?
There is a method. We want to make sure that all our schools are equitably funded and represented. And so student enrollment drives everything from our dollars that we receive at the state. So our student enrollment becomes an FT, a full-time equivalent calculation. And that's how our funding is based on, student enrollment, as well as the training experience of our staff. So like you said, enrollment drives everything, and that's how we start with our budget package.
Yeah, and we're already into, this is fiscal year 23, and we're already in the planning process, pretty deep in the planning process for fiscal year 24. This is going to be pretty basic, but explain what our fiscal year is, when it runs.
Okay, our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th. And that is statewide, so we're not unique in that respect. So we follow the state's fiscal year, July 1st to June 30th. So we have a lot to pack in between that time. And so then budget, we got to make sure that we meet all those, that we can meet that timeline. But then actuals, when we get into the budget, we're constantly, as we spend our money each month, we'll look at how much we've spent versus how much is budgeted to make sure that we're on point. Are we over or under? So we'll compare what we spent to our budget, and then we'll make it through June 30th, and then we'll start over.
And Mr. Chapman, I've got to ask you, he mentioned that we, every single month, we're looking at budget versus actual. And I noticed back in December, I think And again, we're a
Mhm.
$240 million budget. And December, I think we were projected within $14,000.
Yes, sir. That's probably the closest I've ever seen us come on a projection. But we use a history of our budgeted expenditures, compare those month to month, and we've gotten where we're pretty close most of the time.
And not only are we tracking budget versus actual revenues versus expenditures each month, we also are tracking under state law the number of open purchase orders that we have per month. So this is, Mr. Chapman, it's pretty closely scrutinized, I would say.
Yes, sir. It's something we present to the board every month, have for the time that I've been here.
Yeah,
So
and talk a little bit, Mr. Latimer, that budget calendar, you referenced it earlier. State law says we got to have a budget for next year passed by June 30th, and there are some requirements that we have to meet in order to get that done.
That is, we have to have our public hearings on our budget. So now we do 3 public hearings on that. But by June 30th, that budget has to be set in place. That's state law. If you don't have a budget in place, and you have to have a spending resolution. And that involves more processes after June 30th, right? So for efficiency of operations, to make sure that we handle school appropriately, we have got to meet this June 30th deadline every single year.
Yeah. And Mr. Chapman, I've referenced large budget. We know approximately 92% of the budget's personnel. That doesn't leave a lot for the other stuff, does it?
No, sir. And you've got to pay your utilities, your insurance, any supplies you need. You've got just a few $1 million outside of personnel to make the system run.
And one thing, Mr. Latimer, and correct me if I have this number wrong, but I think 65% of our budget is in instruction, where it should be.
Absolutely, and that's a goal that we reach every year. There are a lot of laws that we have to meet, a lot of rules and regulations, but that is the 65% rule. So 65% of our expenses should be in instruction, because that's our core business is instruction. So we really want to focus on that area, and I think we do a great job with it. And once, salaries and benefits is a huge part of our budget, and so when you factor in the other 8% is for the operations side, it doesn't leave you a lot of room to really to play with, so to speak. So it's very, very tight. But we have to make sure that we have those classroom resources. And so we want to pump more into the instructional side so that we can get our students prepared for tomorrow.
Mr. Chapman, as Mr. Latimer was talking there, it really reminds me that we're running a big business here. Yes, it's a school system. Yes, it's all about education, but we're running a big business. There's a lot to it. Our main focus, though, is kids, our students. And everything you guys do within finance is based off of how can we maximize what we have to benefit the 23,000 students. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's not just our department. It's related to every department. Everything we do system-wide is related to what we need to do for the students. And from our department, we have to make sure everything can operate, be taken care of, and the students get what they need.
Yeah. So Mr. Latimer, in the budget process now, we've talked about legislatures doing their thing. They're going to end their session the end of March. We're working off of projections right now. What are the next steps as we put this big thing together?
Next step is we go ahead and start with a preliminary budget. We'll go ahead and start pulling our staffing models. So we'll go ahead and start accumulating some expenses. We'll look to see if there's any new requirements that we have to meet classroom-wise. We'll have to see if there's any goals set by the state that we have to invest in, so to speak. So from there, the next step is to really pull our staffing models together, go ahead and reach out to the schools and have the schools work on their plans and their goals for next year, and have them, the schools prepare budgets to submit to me for review, and then we'll just pull it all together, accumulate those dollars, and then from there we'll go ahead and compare to projected revenues to see how it fits in and if it's attainable and doable.
And all of those revenues that you speak of are from 3 major sources. What are they?
Local, federal, and state sources.
And we're about 45 local and state sources, and then about 10% federal. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Federal has been a little bit more in the previous years, with things that have gone on throughout our country. But we've received a little bit more federal dollars out of these, well, significant portion of federal dollars. But usually that is the case.
All right, Mr. Chapman, before we get out of here, you've been around a long time. Anything you want to add? Anything you want the public to know about budgeting and our finance department?
Well, they see that we operate, but we have a lot of different budgets that are pulled together. We have federal budgets such as our special education program, our school food service program. We have a construction budget, which is largely funded with our local special option sales tax. There are a lot of different items that we put together to come to our total budget.
And one thing I want to make sure to mention before we get out of here, you can find all of that financial information on our website under the financial information tab, right?
Yes, sir. We go back many years.
Yeah, I think we go back at least 10 years on audits, and you can find at least the past 10 years budget.
Yes.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the work that you do to benefit our students. It is a big job. It's a very important job, and I just appreciate what both of you do for our kids. As you can see, folks, it's complicated. They have a big job, but they do great at it, and we just try to get better each and every day. So I hope you got a little bit of a glimpse behind the curtain about how the budget process works and how we dedicate dollars to students here in the school system. We'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in today. I also want to make sure to thank East Coweta High School Principal Steve Allen, Mr. Chris Latimer, who's our System Comptroller, and Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Mr. Keith Chapman, for joining us. I hope you can see how it all fits together to make sure that we get the best possible outcomes that we have for students. From the budget process to our system operations, every day is a complex day, and we have to all work in concert with each other to make sure that we are providing the best environment that we can for students. I hope you get a glimpse into how we're achieving that, and I hope that you'll continue to join us for future episodes of The Update. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.